solve for y. You know, if it helps, people, if it helps, highlight the variable that you're trying to solve. Did I show you that? I think I did. Okay, so I got to get y by itself. The first thing I want to do is get the y term or term on the same side of the equal sign alone. So I'm going to get rid of this x squared term. And it's being subtracted, so I have to undo the subtraction, right? So I'm going to add 10x squared to both sides. Now, I notice some of you are still having trouble. Yes. No, don't add these together. Why can't I add these together? Yeah, these are not like terms, so leave them separate. This, oh, I thought you added them. So, my fault. All right, so I have 10x squared plus 15, or 15 plus 10x squared. I don't care. Not the purpose of this worksheet. Okay. Now, I'm just going to bring this term down. I've got the 5x squared y. Okay. All right, here's my y. What mathematical operations am I doing to this y? Well, multiplication. I have to undo the multiplication by division. Okay, so I'm going to divide. And I'm pretty lucky here because it's only the one term. I'm going to divide by everything I don't want with that y. I don't want the 5. I don't want the x squared. Okay? Yep. Yep. And there's a lot, gentlemen. Okay, so 1 times y is y. There's a lot of different ways to represent this. You could split them up. You can, factor out a common factor, cancel out. But again, that's not really the purpose of this particular concept. Okay, the concept is isolating y. So I have 10x squared plus 15 over 5x squared. Just leave it that way. Don't worry about it for now. My answer. Now, you may be asking yourself, Mr. D, why are we doing this? Right? Why are we always isolating the y? It seems like it's a headache. It's not the easiest thing to do. When we do the next section, we're going to solve systems of equations, remember, by graphing. And you're going to graph 2 lines together and tell me whether it's one solution, no solution, parallel lines, that type of thing. And sometimes you're going to have to isolate the y first, put it in slope intercept. So that's why we're doing it for the next section. Yes, sir. I can do 3. Okay, this time we are solving for x. Now, again, there's a couple of different ways we can do this. The easiest way is to get that term by fractional term, get it on one side of the equation by itself, besides the x's in that term. So I'm adding 8 to it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to subtract the 8. Now you could have multiplied the whole thing by 5 too, it's fine, but it gets a little complicated. So I've got y minus 8. And if you're having trouble still with doing it to both sides of the equation, these add up to 0. I don't need to bring the 0 down, but I do need to bring the x over 5, right? Now, what's happening to my x? It's being divided by 5. So how do I undo division of 5? Multiply by 5. So I'm going to multiply by 5, multiply by 5. And again, I don't really care what the left-hand side looks like. You don't have to simplify it. You don't have to distribute it. Just leave it the way it is. 5, although you do need the parentheses because it's a quantity now. These 5's cancel 1 and I end up with my x. Yes, ma'am. I think you guys have 4 problems. All right. How about number 6? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. Let's do 5 and 6. And then we'll call it a day. All right. This time I'm solving for x. Here's my x. Bless you. Okay, what am I going to do here first? You're think of this as a quiz. This is a question and a quiz. What are you going to do first? Write your name. Skip it. Got a radical. Something different. If you have a if you have something that traps numbers, okay, radical, parentheses, you try to fraction, try to isolate that term. I want to isolate. I want to get that term all by itself. I actually have 2 terms here. Terms are separated by plus and minus. I'll say it again. Terms are separated by plus and minus. Multiplication division does not separate variable numbers and terms. Okay, so I have a minus 4. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Okay, these 4's add up to 0, and then I've got this square root of 2x minus 5 being trapped, that x is still being trapped by that radical. And I've got y plus 4. Okay. I have to get rid of that radical before I get to the x. What undoes radical? Square root. Squaring, right? I kind of gave you a hint. I'm going to square root. So the square cancels out the radical. And I get 2x minus 5 equals y plus 4 squared. Now you guys know how to get to the x. 2-step equation. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Now you're adding 5. You're not going to add it inside the parentheses because it's locked in there. You can't make that 9. Leave it outside the parentheses. So I got the 2x equals y plus 4 squared plus 5. And now I'm going to divide everything by the 2, right? So x is going to equal this whole mess over here. X is going to equal y plus 4 squared plus 5. Then I'm dividing everything by 2. That's probably one of the most complicated problems. Right, Nathan? And let's do number 5. So we're solving for x. Here's my x. And I want to get that term by itself on one side of the equation first. I have 3 terms here, right? Because I have these separated by plus and minus. I'm going to do 2 steps at once. We're in algebra now, we can do that, right? Okay, here's my both sides of my equations. I'm going to add 8 both sides. And at the same time, I'm going to subtract y. Okay? I'm just putting 2 steps in one step. So these add up to 0. These add up to 0. I'll get my x squared equals 0 plus 8 is 8 minus y. Kind of saves me some work. Now, if I use squared to get rid of the radical, what do you think I'm going to use to get rid of the square? Yeah, root it, radical. That's going to get rid of the power of 2. So I get x equals. Now, when I take the square root of something, what happens? Yeah, if I took the square root of 4, what is the square root of 2? How am I talking about it? Which means 2 times 2. What if I use negative 2 times negative 2 to get positive 4? So I don't know which one I need. Whenever you take the square root of something, you have to put that plus or minus. We don't know if we're talking about plus. That's it. No, I would not. I could. I'll tell you what. Students I don't like. Any others on these sheets? On this one. This is Algebra 2, Isolating Variable Practice. Think you can do the rest? Sure.